Hello everybody, welcome to Shakehand with Life YouTube channel. Here on this channel, you can watch a variety of videos and build up your engineering and management skills. In this video series of ISO 9001-2015 Quality Management System requirements, I am going to discuss about the clause number 8, which describes the operation. And in this particular video, I am going to discuss the sub-clauses 8.3 and 8.4. I am Narendra Sharma, and in this video of clause 8 operation, which describes the operation of ISO 9001-2015, in my previous video, I have described clause 8.1 operational planning and control and clause 8.2 requirements for products and services. And in this video, I am going to discuss the clause 8.3 design and development of products and services and 8.4 control of externally provided processes, products and services. And in my next video, I will describe the clause 8.5 production and service provision, 8.6 release of products and services, and 8.7 control of non-conforming outputs. Therefore, if you are new on this channel and if you have not subscribed this channel, then please subscribe the channel by pressing the subscribe button and then press the bell icon. So whenever there is a new video uploaded on this channel of Shakehand with Life, you may get the notifications about my new video uploads. Now, starting with the clause 8.3. Clause 8.3 describes about the design and development of products and services, and this clause is further divided into 6 sub-clauses. 8.3.1 General, 8.3.2 Design and Development Planning, 8.3.3 Design and Development Inputs, 8.3.4 Design and Development Controls, 8.3.5 Design and Development Outputs, 8.3.6 Design and Development Changes. Starting with the 8.3.1, which describes about the general requirement for the design and development. The organization shall establish, implement and maintain a design and development process that is appropriate to ensure the subsequent provision of products and services. So any organization which is manufacturing a product or delivering a service, it has to establish, implement and maintain a design development process which appropriates and appropriates to its all operations of providing the products and services to its customers. And there are subsequent processes are there. Somewhere transportation process is there, somewhere storage process is there, somewhere manufacturing process is there. So there are so many processes are there in the organization, and for design and development of the products and design and development of the processes, a plan is there that the organization has to establish a design and development process for the product and the process of manufacturing or delivery of service. Now come to the clause number 8.3.2. First we understand the design and development planning, how to plan the design and development process. In determining the stages and controls for design and development, the organization shall consider A. The nature, duration and complexity of the design and development activities, and this depends upon the type of the product and the process of manufacturing of that product. The nature, duration and complexity of the design and development activities. B says the required process stages including applicable design and development reviews. Then you have to review the stages of the process and this includes the design development reviews, the activities which involve the design development, that activities, these activities must be reviewed. C says the required design development verification and validation activities, they are for the product and the process. There are number of tools for verification of the design and development activities, verification and validation, and this maybe includes the FMEA, failure mode analysis for the design for a product, and process FMEA for the to identify the risk of the process. Then come to the D, the responsibilities and authorities involved in the design development processes. The persons who are responsible or the persons who are authorized for the design development activities. E says the internal and external resource needs for the design development of products and services. What kind of resources are required for design development activities? F says the need to control interfaces between persons involved in the design and development process. How the people interact with each other during the design development process. This must be controlled. These interface of the different people in the design development activities, that interface need to be controlled. And the G says the requirement for subsequent provision of products and processes. There are number of processes are there in an organization after manufacturing a process, after manufacturing a product or design of the service. How to store the product, how to transport the product, what are the associated services, if a number of services are there to outsource, and what are the clients whom the organization is going to outsource for the associated services in manufacturing of a product. The level of control expected for design development process by customer and other relevant interested parties, and what type of control are required for design development process in which the customers are involved or the relevant interested parties are involved, and the documented information needed to demonstrate that design and development requirements have been met. This clause is also considering the documented information which showcase that the design development activities are actually being met. Now come to the clause number 8.3.3. This is about the design development inputs. The organization shall determine the requirements essential for specific types of product and services to be designed and developed. The organization shall consider functional and performance requirements. What is the functional requirement? What is the performance requirement with regard to a product or a service? That input must be considered by the organization. B says the information derived from previous similar design and development activities. If there are some previous designs are available with the organization, that inputs must be considered for design and development of a product or the process. And consider the statutory and regulatory requirements. What are the government regulations are there while manufacturing a product, and according to that the design development activities must be determined. Standards or codes of practice that organization has committed to implement. And E says the potential consequences of failure due to the nature of product and services. Because of the what type of product is there, if there is a manufacturing of a car, then what kind of a failure that create the risk for the person who is using that product. If a fan is manufactured by a company, then what kind of failure risks are there? That type of consequences must be considered by the organization. Inputs shall be adequate for design and development purpose, complete and unambiguous. Conflicting design development inputs shall be resolved, and these inputs always be unambiguous. They should not be conflicting, and they are very much clear. The inputs always be very clear to the organization which is going to manufacture a product or planning the design development for a product or a process. The organization shall retain documented information on design development inputs, and for these inputs, the documented information uh, must be required by the organization, and the organization has to maintain or retain the documented information for these design development inputs. Now come to the clause number 8.3.4. This is the design development controls. How would you control the design development activities? The organization shall apply controls to design development process to ensure that the results to be achieved are defined. What type of results you are expected, that must be defined. Reviews are conducted to evaluate the ability of results of design development to meet requirements. Periodically, monthly or quarterly, the reviews must be, and if it is necessary, then it could done weekly. The reviews must be conducted to evaluate the ability of results of design development. Verification activities are conducted to ensure that the design development outputs meet the inputs requirements. There should be verification activities that the inputs are satisfied the outputs. The desired outputs can be achieved, or can be you can say that expected outputs will come on the basis of these inputs requirements. That requirements must be verified, and there should be validation activities uh, are conducted to ensure that the resulting product and services meet the requirements for the specified application or intended use. And for the validation activities, there are a number of tools for validation, such as the prototype testing. Similarly, for verification, the testing tools are there. The activities must be tested. The inputs which are used by the organization for design development, that must be tested, and accordingly the validation activities must be conducted by the organization to control the design development activities. Any necessary actions are taken on problems determined during the reviews or verification and validation activities, and if there is a requirement of action taken according to the verification or validation activities as a result of verification and validation activities, that should be taken by the organization as a preventive measure or a corrective measure. Then documented information of these activities should be retained by the organization. Notice there, design development reviews, verification and validation have distinct purpose. They can be conducted separately or in combination as is suitable for the product and services. These activities, reviews, verification, validation, they must be conducted as a combination or separately. Now come to the clause number 8.3.5. This is the design development outputs. The organization shall ensure the design development outputs meet the input requirements, are adequate for subsequent process for provision of product and services. The outputs, which outputs in form of a product, that product must be suits to the subsequent processes. Such subsequent processes are there. So many processes are there. Somewhere the process outsourcing process is there. Somewhere you can say the transportation process is there. Storage processes are there. The output must be suited to the subsequent processes. C says the include or reference monitoring and measuring requirements as appropriate acceptance criteria. How would you accept the product when the organization manufacture the product, and how it would be accepted by the organization? There should be the acceptance criteria, and for that monitoring and measurement requirements are there that must be followed. Specify the characteristics of the products and services that are essential for their intended purpose and their safe and proper provision. And what are the specification of a product that must be met by the organization while that must be ensured by the design and development activities when the product is actually going to be manufactured, that must meet the specification given to the organization. So the design development activities must be the outputs of the design development should be determined in such a way that the characteristics of the product and services are meet, and the safe operation of the product and service must be certain. The organization shall retain documented information on design and development outputs. Now come to the clause number 8.3.6, the design development changes. Now this clause is talking about the changes in the design development. The organization shall identify, review and control changes made during or subsequent to the design development of products and services to extent necessary to ensure that there is no adverse impact or conformity to requirements. So why the changes need to be done in the design development of a product or a process is required because of there should not be adverse effect to the conformity of the requirements. Whatever desired by the customer, that should be met by the organization. So the anytime at any level of design development activities, the changes should be incorporated in the design development activities so that no adverse effect could hamper the function of the or the performance of the product and service. So there are design development changes. This is the talking about the design development changes. This is the results of reviews. What the changes after the changes, what type of results has come, that must be reviewed, and who is authorized to make changes in the design development activities and design development of the product and process, and the actions taken to prevent adverse impacts. What are the necessary actions that has been taken to prevent the adverse impacts. Now come to the clause number 8.4. This is talking about the control of externally provided processes, products and services. Now this clause is talking about if there are number of services taken by the organization to deliver the product or services, and these services are somewhere some raw material is taken by the organization from external service provider, and somewhere the transportation services which may be the outsourced by the organization so that the product could be delivered to the customer. So this is talking about this clause is talking about how would you control the externally provided processes, products and services. So this clause is further divided into three sub clauses. 8.4.1 is general, 8.4.2 is type and extent of control, 8.4.3 is information for external providers. One by one I will try to elaborate this. 8.4.1 is the general. The organization shall ensure that externally provided processes, products and services conform to requirements. The organization shall determine the controls to be applied to externally provided processes, products and services when a. the product and services from external providers are intended for incorporation into organization own product and services. When external service providers provide the organization some sort of services, some sort of product, such as the packing material may be provided by some external service provider, and in that case the organization has to control these services while incorporating these services into their own product and services. B says the product and services are provided directly to the customer by external providers on behalf of the organization, and in that case also the organization has to control when the external service provider providing the product or service to the customer on behalf of the organization. In that case the organization has to control the services. And C says the process or the part of a process is provided by the external provider as a result of decision by the organization. So there are some services, for example, a car manufacturer take the steering, or you can say that as a process, some sort of selling process is there on behalf of the car manufacturer. So that process must be controlled by the organization. If any third party or a part of process is provided by external provider, as a result of then the decision maker is the manufacturer. The organization shall determine and apply criteria for evaluation, selection, monitoring of performance, and re-evaluation of external providers based on their ability to provide processes or products and services in accordance with requirements. The organization shall retain documented information of these activities and any necessary actions arising from the evaluations. And the organization has to evaluate the performance of the third party who is working or who is providing the product or services or processes, part of the processes to the customers. That that service providers must be evaluate, select, and monitor or re-evaluate by the organization according to their ability of or according to their performance. And there should be the documented information of the activities which are being done by the external service provider. Now come to the clause number 8.4.2. This is about the type and extent of control. What type, how much control you would apply to the external service provider. This clause is talking about that. The organization shall ensure that externally provided processes, products and services do not adversely affect the organization's ability to consistently deliver conforming products and services to its customer. Why this type of control is required? This type of control is required so that the goodwill of the organization would not hamper because of the service provided by the external service provider. Therefore, the organization shall ensure the externally provided processes remain within the control of its quality management system, and the external service provider must follow the rules and regulation of the quality management system of the organization and define both the controls that it intends to apply to an external providers and those it intends to apply to the resulting output. In both cases, to that the controls should be applied to the intends to external service provider and the resulting output. The control should be applied to both cases, external service provider and the output that is provided by the external service provider to a customer or the client of the organization. C says that take into consideration the potential impact of the externally provided processes, products and services on the organization ability to consistently meet customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. The organization must consider what could be the adverse effect or what could be the potential impact of the external services provider with regard to the process, product or services, and that must be evaluated accordingly. And they should consider the statutory and regulatory requirement. The external service providers must follow the statutory and regulatory requirement. The effectiveness of the control applied by the external provider, and must consider what is the effectiveness of the controls on the external service provider. D. Determine the verification or other activities necessary to ensure that the externally provided processes, product and services meet requirements. And the organization has to verify that whether the activities which are being taken by the organization or which are being executed by by external service provider, that must be effective activities, because later on the impact would come onto the organization, goodwill of the organization. So therefore the controls on the external service provider must be taken by the organization who is manufacturing a product or delivering the services to its for its clients or customers. Now come to the clause number 8.4.3. It is the information for external providers. What type of information the organization has to provide the external service providers? The organization shall ensure the adequacy of requirements prior to their communication to the external provider. The organization shall communicate to external providers its requirements for. The organization has to provide the necessary requirements to the external server, to whom the services or the processes or the products outsourced to the external service providers. And A says the processes, product and services to be provided. What type of processes there, that is outsourced. What type of product, that is outsourced. What type of services, that is outsourced. B, the approval of product and services, method, process and equipment, the release of product and services. And these three points must be ensured by the organization, approved by the organization. Product and services, method, process and equipment. What type of equipment are used by the external service provider? What are the methods used by the external service providers? And how the external service provider releasing the product and services to the customer. Then C says the competence, including any required qualification of the person. What type of competency is required to manufacture the product or using a process to manufacture a product. What type of competency is required, that must be decided by the organization while outsourcing the service to the external service provider. D says the external provider's interaction with the organization. The organization continuously interact with the external service providers so that the external service provider understand the requirements of the organization time to time. E says the control and monitoring of the external providers' performance to be applied by the organization. The organization continuously control and monitor the external service providers' performance, how good they are providing the services to the customer or clients on behalf of the organization. Then verification or validation activities that the organization or its customer intends to perform at the external provider's premises. The organization has to control or monitor the verification and validation activities done by the external service providers. These verification and validation activities must be monitored and controlled by the organization in the premises of the external service provider. So this is all about the clause number 8.3 and 8.4. Hope you have understand the clause 8.3 and 8.4. Now it's time to test your learning. Write down the answers of these two questions, and you need to also write down your feedback. How do you like this video? The questions are: which clause describes requirements of design, development, verification and validation activities? Write down the number of that which clause is describing the requirements of design, development, verification and validation activities. The question number 2 is: which clause describe the external service providers interactions with the organization? Write down the answers of these two questions so that I could understand that you are actually learning learning from this video. And if you really like this video, then press the like button and share this video among your friends and colleagues to spread this video as much as possible. And don't forget to subscribe Shakehand with Life YouTube channel and press the bell icon, so whenever there is a new video uploaded on this channel, you may get the notifications about the new video upload. Thanks for having stayed with me. Have a nice day. See you in my next video of ISO 9001 2015 Quality Management System requirements. Thank you.